Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Huge Pop from the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Tonight I have Reek on the right of me. I also have our special guest tonight is an American female professional wrestler. Her championships and accomplishments are as follows. She has held the AIWF CWE Vixens Championship. She was the first ever ranked number 3 in the AIWF. Her roles in the women's wrestling are as follows. She's a singles wrestler, tag team wrestler, a personal valet. Our guest begins her ringing career in 2012. She was trained by none other than Francisco Chiazzo and Rain. Her signature move is Lightning Strike DDT. Please welcome to the HPWP Stormie Lee. How you doing today?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming aboard.
Yeah, thank you for coming
Absolutely.
aboard. Rico, I'll let you start. I usually always start the questions, so I'll let you start the questions tonight.
Oh, I just want to know, so when did you get started and how did you get started into the wrestling business?
I actually had met a couple people that did wrestling. So like when I was younger, I watched wrestling with my grandfather, and that was like the big thing. It was like we got together and we watched wrestling. And I was so young, I don't have a ton of memories from it, but I remember that it was something that we did together, and it was something that really brought us together and made us close. So when I got older, I never thought anything about it really. But I met a friend who did wrestling and introduced me to a school. I won't name drop the school because I was not properly trained at the school that I was originally at. So that was in 2012 originally. I met Francisco at about a year in. And we just like met at a show, and that was that. We, said hi, bye, that kind of thing. And then I ended up getting hurt because I was not trained properly. So I took about a year off, and then came back to a show to work Santana Garrett, and Francisco was actually there. And he gave me some tips on my match, some advice, basically told me, you're terrible without telling me you're terrible. He did it in a nice, the coaching type way, he's like, well, you're not the total shits, but you're not the best, and he said, if you're really into doing this and you really want to do this, let me put you, I know Bonnie, Max and Rain, she's doing training now. So if you really want to do this, I'll get you over there with her and she can get you trained the right way. And in this same night was kind of like the first night that Frank and I kind of had our, we consider it our love at first sight moment, because we met, and 3 months later we were living together. So I trained with Bonnie, and then on the off time, I was managing Frank. So we would go to shows and I would learn on the road through him, and I would practice before the shows that he was on, and I would get in ring time, and I'd get in there and set up the ring, tear down the ring, get a little training in, get my manager training in, where I got really lucky that I was able to train in a ring and do my basic training with Rain. But I also got to be spoiled and get to live on the road and watch that kind of training happen. So I kind of was really blessed that I was able to do that. I wasn't just stuck in a ring or stuck in a, 4 walls to do all my training. I was able to be on the road and do all my training. So I was really, really fortunate with being able to do that.
Nice. So because I always like to hear everybody's answer on this. Do you remember your first ever match you watched?
First match I watched. It was a Lunger Blaze and Bull Nakano. I don't remember what show it was, but I remember just being obsessed with the Lunger Blaze and just thinking wow, that's really cool. I want to be like that.
Nice.
It's like the psychology, their chemistry in the ring. It's just, I go back and watch it now and I'm like, wow, they were on to something then. And now that's what I kind of tried to model some of my stuff after some of the stuff that Bull did, because in my training I became more of a Bull Nakano fan because I was more of like the heel type. I wasn't the rah yay, although I will always love Lunger Blaze Medusa for dumping the title in the trash can on live television. Now she'll always be my favorite just because of that, because it was so just bold and just jaw-dropping moment that everyone was like, oh my God.
Like, did that really just happen?
Yeah.
Jacina Nuez, thank you for jumping in chat. Hello, Stormie. Stormie Lee, you're amazing. So we have people in the chat already. Don't forget to
Oh, that's good.
don't forget to hit the
Good.
follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Coming out, had some bad training, got some good training through after you met Francisco. So, how much influence and encouragement did you get from Chiazzo along with your journey in wrestling?
I mean, it was limitless. As long as I had the desire to learn and desire to like figure new things out and to do it and actually put in the real effort to get it done and to become a professional wrestler, he was like an open book. I mean, he just flooded me with knowledge 24/7. It was always some kind of like, we would listen to like wrestling podcasts, and he would, bring up old matches. And when they would bring up an old match and they would talk about the psychology or the story of it, he would, wherever we were, he'd put a bookmark in that, and we would sit down and we would watch that match, and we'd go back and listen to the podcast and compare notes. And like he was just his brain for it was something like I've never seen before. I mean, he just had such a brain for it and such a love for it. Like, and he would teach me like chain wrestling moves in the living room when we weren't at practice, and there was things that we saw on TV that I wanted to learn. He would, we'd move the coffee table to the side, and he's like, "All right, come here, let's try it."
We got in living room practice. That's good.
Yeah, we had our own little in living room. Probably not the wisest thing to do. We broke a coffee table, but
Hey, that's all right. So growing up and watching wrestling, who were your favorites? Like growing up, was it always female wrestlers that you liked, or was there a male wrestler that you liked?
I loved Macho Man, and I loved Miss Elizabeth. Okay. And Macho Man was just out of this world character. I thought it was just the coolest thing. He was just always Macho Man, and I just loved his character. As far as women, the first one I really, really, really started to like want to take after and be like was actually Beth Phoenix. And that was like so later on, because my younger years, I didn't think that was a possibility to ever do. It was my older years that I realized that this could be something that I could do. And she like was around the time that I got back into watching wrestling, and I just loved everything about her. She just had the confidence, and she was a bigger girl, and she, her stories that she told in all of her matches, like, when I was younger, I was a Trish Stratus fan too. I did love Trish Stratus. She was one of my favorites. And I loved the whole Edge and Lita gimmick that they did. That was one of my favorites. I liked watching Lita in that.
Okay.
When they had the whole Matt Hardy kind of, that was real life stuff right there. So the first time to bring that and just let it just explode on TV.
Yeah, and to this day, that's one of my favorite storylines ever. Like, it's unfortunate that like it happened the way that it did, but I just thought that was so cool that like it made it so much more real, because it was real. It was so much more believable because it was real and it was happening. And they monetized that. They were genius to monetize that. But sure, the situation's unfortunate, but to be able to just be okay with using that in business was like cool.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys ever had that in your company where you just there was backstage beef, real life beef, and they just let it be handled out in the ring?
There actually was with with Frank. There was this long well-known thing with another guy, and I mean, I'll say it was Bruce Santee. It was something stupid and something small, and it was like, but it turned into beef. And I remember that we did a show, and we were doing a series of shows for AWA and up in Tennessee, right when that promotion started. And it was the very first one they ever did. And the guy that came to wrestle Santee backed out and didn't want to. He heard that Bruce was too rough or something like that. And so the guy was free to work him and didn't show. So Bruce was in the back, like, let's go find somebody, and I don't remember exactly how it went down, but Frank stepped up and Bruce was like, Frankie, now Frank will get in there and actually work and actually wrestle. Let's go and finish this beef out there. And they went out and the two of them beat the crap out of each other safely. They were safe. Neither one of them hurt each other, which was incredible because at the time it was like, I mean, it was some pretty intense stuff. And so for them at the time, they were both such professionals. And to this day, I respect the hell out of Bruce Santee for it because when they got out of that ring, they were good and they were good from then on. They settled it like men and dealt with it in the ring. And that was the first time I had ever seen something like that, like real stuff actually happen. And I was on the sideline going, oh my God, this is bad. This is bad. Oh my God. So the whole time I'm freaking out. And I knew Bruce wasn't going to hurt him. I was in no fear that either one of them would intentionally take liberties and hurt the other one. I knew they're both professional enough that they could do it. But I knew it hurt. I knew it hurt. I knew that some of those punches did not feel the best. And that, Frank gave it right back to him. But it made for a hell of a match.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think that it's awesome when you take real life situations and you just, settle it out there, because it brings more action. And like you said, guys just get in a ring with each other or girls, they just really go at each other, but they're professional about it.
Yeah.
So it puts on a better show.
Yeah. And that's what I think is missing some today too. Is like things used to get handled like that. You handled it in the ring and you dealt with each other and you gave a couple snug ones to the other one and you guys handled your shit there. But now, if people take liberties, now you just can't trust any, you can trust people, but it's not like the old days where that was how it was done and respected and that's how you handled things,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you guys now Nunez is here still. He's on Facebook. He asked this question. So we were going to get later to this question, but since he's on here, the topic I was going to be under is outside of wrestling. And I know Frank, he was when I interviewed him in October, he was so passionate about the Journeyman, the movie. He even sent me a director's cut to watch it. So I let him know because he was so into feedback. He needed that feedback. He wanted the feedback,
Oh, yeah.
And that's so cool. So Nunez is, how did the Journeyman name come about for the wrestling movie?
Well, Journeyman itself is, from what I understand, it's like a traveler and someone who does the traveling and does the roads and makes the towns. And so we couldn't think of any better way to describe him other than as a journeyman, because that's what they did. He made the towns. He got in the car. Even when we didn't want to, and he was tired and beat up and exhausted and just didn't have it in him. He was in the car on the road to the next show. So we thought it really just defined him and defined the picture of showing, us out on the road and our life together and how things were. So I think that the journeyman, I think Paul Stewart, the director and writer, I think he was one that initially said, well, what about Journeyman? You used Journeyman, and they were throwing things together and they just said just Journeyman. And I was like, that's perfect. You don't need to add anything else. Just Journeyman. That describes you to a T right there.
So you were part of that movie, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was Paul Stewart basically lived with us for like a year. The poor guy was on the road with us 24/7. He was at our house 24/7. His poor wife and daughter, I'm sure, suffered the consequences of that.
Now, were you in WrestleTopia as well, or was that just Francisco?
No, I did some stuff for WrestleTopia as well. Yeah, Justin DeSan did a couple things with us. That was part of our AWA stint up in Nashville.
Okay. So not only were you guys wrestlers, you guys were in the movies, etc. So what other hobbies do you have outside of the wrestling, the business?
My current hobbies include scrapbooking. I'm on a scrapbooking kick right now. I'm trying to preserve all of our memories, so I'm doing a scrapbooking kick right now. Together we used to collect action figures and Disney stuff. So I collect Disney snow globes, and they were called Jim Shore action figures. They're like these hand painted Disney statues. They're just beautiful. Frank was a big wrestling action figure. He's got every LJN, every Remco, every Hasbro. I swear collection takes up like my entire craft room. And we have that was our thing, was we would go around to little thrift shops and we would go around to like toy cons and like Comic Cons and things, and we would find things for our collections.
Yeah, so that's my wife and I are kind of the same, because my wife is a humongous Disney fan, and she gets these mystery boxes from Disney all the time. You know, and I'm like, cool. And I'm, as you can see behind me, at Funko Pops. I got more Funko Pops over there, and so
we used to have a huge collection of Funko Pops, but they just took up so much room with their boxes. We just ran out of space for them.
You get so many of them, next thing you know, it's covering up your whole wall.
Yeah, and that's what happened. Like, it made, actually, we had our part of our living room was like a sunken living room, and it meshed in with our dining room, and our Funko Pop wall ended up being like a divider from the dining room to the living room. So it made its own little wall.
That's awesome. So, man, you guys, Nunez, thank you for all the hearts. Thank you, Stormie. I really appreciate you so much, and I always continue to watch it. And I always honor Francisco, sending you hearts, love. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sam. She is a true sweetheart.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for pointing on the podcast. That's great. Rico.
So when you were, like, let's say in high school, did you have any goals besides wrestling, or was it just always wrestling?
No, it actually wasn't wrestling until I met Frank. When Frank and I started, that was when, so 2015 was when wrestling, like my love for wrestling, really took off. Before that, I had every intention of going to school and becoming a lawyer or a veterinarian. I hadn't picked which one yet. Both of those, now I'm like, okay, those are two totally different job careers. We've kind of blown that away. So right now I'm in school to be a veterinary technician. So that's kind of my passion currently. Since I got hurt with wrestling, that's kind of, I had to put my brain back to the test in school and start school again. So that was always, I always really wanted to be a lawyer. I played softball and volleyball and cheerleading and basketball in high school. So I really wanted to be a softball player. That was like my number one goal, was to like go to college and play softball.
Okay. It's just, isn't amazing how things just change. Like,
you
got your mindset on this, and then the next thing you know, you're over here and you're like, hey, I love this though.
Yeah. It completely changed every like course of action I had, like thought that I wanted in life, you know. And I think Frank had a big part of that too, because he just made it so much fun, you know. Like, we actually got to like live our dream, and we got to live our dream with our best friend, you know. And that's what made it so much cooler to me, and that's what made me love wrestling so much more, was because we had such a love for it together, and it gave us so many great memories. You know, I will always, there was a time when I had a love-hate relationship with wrestling, but, you know, I always have love for wrestling because it gave me, you know, 10 wonderful years that I had with Frank.
Absolutely.
So I got to ask you, just to mess with Huge Pop, were you okay with Cody finishing the story?
Yes. I think so. From what I remember from the story, yes, I like Cody Rhodes. I wasn't a fan of him with AEW, but I always liked Cody. I always felt like he was a really hard worker, and he really did, you know, what he could to help other people out, and you know, any kind of storyline that he ever did. And I felt like he was just an underrated guy, and he never got his chance. So I thought that him getting his chance and him getting a shot, like, was so well deserved.
Mm-hmm. And I just say it because Huge Pop, he wasn't very happy about that.
I mean,
no.
I mean, and I'll explain why. I mean, you're right. They put him in every storyline. And again, I'll say this Cody Rhodes was misused when he came to WWE 2 years ago. I thought he should have finished it then, but he got tied up in the Jimmy and Jay and Sami Zayn, and then with Kevin Owens and all this stuff. And then I was like, they almost lost it. And at that point, Roman Reigns and the Bloodline just was skyrocketing out of control. Like, they were amazing, you know. And I didn't like them, though. I didn't want Roman Reigns to lose because, and it's proven right now, I watched SmackDown for the Bloodline. I watched SmackDown for Roman Reigns. Now they're doing what they're doing. I can't get behind, because there's no Roman Reigns. There's no really Bloodline. I mean, it's almost like, it feels like they're throwing it together.
Yeah.
But I had a feeling that was going to happen once Cody Rhodes was champion. Nothing against Cody Rhodes, I just don't know what the storylines are going to be going forward. And I guess as a fan, I'm sure Francisco, and I know Francisco, when we talked back in October, he said one of the most important things is let's tell a story.
Yeah.
He loved telling stories.
That was huge for him.
I just don't understand this story now.
Yeah.
And I guess it'll take time. So yes,
yeah.
I was not happy with Cody Rhodes winning because I'm a big storyline fan. So now, do you remember your first match? Now you wrestled for Shine, correct?
I did, yeah.
So can you walk us through your career with Shine, your ups and downs? You had a championship there too. If I'm correct.
I didn't have a championship. I came close. I almost had a championship. So I started out working. My very first match was against a character called Maria, which was Allison Kay in a mask. Don't tell anybody. I was the Queen of the South, or Queen of Florida at the time. I hadn't picked up the Queen of the Southeast moniker yet. And it was good. She was great. She walked me like through everything, and I was so nervous and I was terrified because I was like, okay, this is like the biggest thing I've ever been on. You know, I'm with all these great women workers. I'm like, I felt like I paled in comparison. But she was great. Her and Lexi Fife were instrumental in helping me like get my head together and, you know, keep it together for the match. I did a long run with my trainer Rain, where she came back and from her accident, and she never was supposed to be able to wrestle again, and she came back and worked in Shine, and it was just when I was starting to get my comeuppance and make my name for myself when she decided to come back. So her and I had a little bit of a feud there. And the other girl I trained with, I think she goes by Fallon Henley now. Her name was Tesha Price back then. Her and I trained together. So she did some stuff with the Bonnie and I thing. And my last match at Shine was, I was with Brandy Lauren, and, that was not my last match. I'm sorry. That was before my concussion, or it was the match of my concussion was against Shotzi. And she did a cannonball in the corner. It was a great match. From what I can remember, I hit my head on the turnbuckle the wrong way and knocked myself unconscious. So that kind of ended. We were supposed to have this great match, and that kind of ended that. And then we did a bunch of stuff in Queens, New York. I miss Queens. Queens, New York was a crazy wrestling. Like I didn't expect it to be the wrestling town that it was. It was just, we did it at Laboom nightclub, and it was insane. Their crowd was just crazy. And I did a tag. I was champion there. I was tag champion with Kimberly. I'm so sorry. Don't tell Kimberly I forgot that. My memory is not what it used to be. Since that concussion, my memory is just not what it used to be. But Kimberly and I did have a run. We did with the Hex, with Marty Bell and Allison Kay. That was a blast. I loved those matches. I always got my behind kicked, but it was always fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
So who was someone that you just wish you could have had a match with? Dream match.
Dream match. Well, it was Mercedes Martinez. I did get to work her, and she helped me train a lot. I would love to be able to work with her again and have like a longer match and a longer story, because she was just incredible to work with in the ring. Dream match that I would never have in a million years, I would have to say against Beth Phoenix, because I idolized her in my starting days. So that would be my never gonna happen dream match.
Yeah, Beth was amazing.
She really was. I mean, she's still like her just whole demeanor, which is to me was incredible. Just, you know, she got around and she moved in there like some of the smaller girls, but she never, you know, and I feel like it never got to her head. You know, sometimes that's important. Like to feel like no matter how big somebody is, they're still the same in the locker room. And I always felt like that was a true thing about her. I don't know why. I never met her, but it just always seemed like things that I saw and heard. And And watching her, it seemed like that was the kind of person that she was, and of course, being married to Ed, she kind of was a similar way. So it wouldn't surprise me if she was that way.
So will we ever see Stormie Lee back in the ring, do you think?
Probably not. My concussion was pretty severe. I've had 3 that were pretty bad. My most recent one, which was I think 5 years ago, permanently ruptured my eardrum, and caused a lot of memory problems. So like, there's a lot of specific things. Like if you were to ask me specific dates or times or specific, like there's some stories of Frankie and I that like I can't remember fully because my memory loss has just gotten so bad from that most recent concussion. So I am not allowed to be back in a ring, unfortunately. I wish. I almost did for Frank's memorial show, and I knew he would support me if I would have decided to do that, but I felt like there was enough of his students that could pass the tradition on and could do a good enough show that I didn't need to jump in there and risk getting hurt or risk hurting somebody else.
Absolutely. So I have this question, and I struggled writing this question, but I will ask this. Stormie Lee and Francisco Chiazzo. The question is, what does Stormie Lee stand for? And what did Francisco Chiazzo stand for? What legacy do you guys want to leave on the, or what stamp do you want to put on the business of wrestling?
I think Frank's legacy is his trainees and his students. He left a legacy of being an incredible trainer, mentor. He was like a dad to a lot of those kids. So I think that's the legacy that he left. I don't really know if I feel like I was in it long enough to leave any kind of like standing legacy. I mean, I tried to do my career like old school, and have some of those morals and, gosh, that's a hard question for me. It's easy for Frank, but for me, I felt like I didn't do that much to leave anything. I hope that, I know that there are people that enjoyed watching me wrestle and enjoyed what I did. And I made some little kids gaze sometimes. So that's good for me. And knowing that I left that kind of impression for like little kids. And I'm hoping I left a role model type impression for little girls who, may not think that they can do whatever they want, but I hope I taught some young girls that they can, and they can, do anything they set their mind to, and they deserve to be with someone like Frank who treats them well. And yeah, I know that you kind of veered off your question. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Dr. Red Tyler says, hello to Stormie Lee. She was my first ladies champion ever. Just great back in CWE.
Oh, yes. Good old CWE Vixens, the Wallard title. So I had my CWE Vixens championship was said world internet champion or intercontinental champion or something, but it was spelled wrong. So it was spelled WOLRD. So that was the big joke, was that I was the Wallard's women's champion, the women's champion of the Wallard.
The Wallard. There you go. That's awesome. That's a good story. So
I still have that belt too. Actually, it's my keepsake belt.
Awesome.
So do you try to help out any of the up and coming talent?
I do. Yeah, that was one thing I always tried to do, was I tried to take a book from Frank, and I had no place training people per se. But I always made sure at Shine that, if there was girls that needed help, or I felt like maybe could use an insight about their match or about their story or something like really cool. I tried to step in and help that in that way where I could. I really tried to bring in any girls that would come in to train with Frank. I tried to make sure that I was there at least a couple of times and tried to work with them. I remember there was one specific worker, I won't mention her, who she is, but she was not the greatest and she just wasn't getting it. And I remember like she was training with a bunch of men And I remember just pulling her aside at Shine one day and just saying, hey, you know, if you need something or you need a woman's opinion or you want a woman's opinion and, you know, you need anything, I'm just a phone call away. You know, I remember giving her my phone number and come on train with us. And she's actually doing really, really well now. So yeah, I tried to take one from Frank's book and help give back like I was lucky enough to receive, you know, the fortune that I had.
You ever get to the WWN FIP training center and are there where they hold their matches?
I've been there a couple times. They actually are just right down the road from me now. I have not been back since Frank's Memorial Show. I went back to take some students, some boots of his, and it was just too hard to be there because he was such a force and such a presence everywhere, you know, and especially at the training center, he was just, you could just feel him not there, you know. So, but the training center is an incredible place. They've got Puerto Rican hound dogs helping out with training now. Sideshows helping out with training now. I think there was one other person, Billy Grace is helping out. So they're all in good hands. Frank left them all in more than capable hands. And I know Sal's doing a good job with running those shows now and making sure that the young guys get talent and young guys get to show their talent. You know, that's what's great about those proving ground shows. It's like the students and the younger guys getting to show their talent every week. You know, it's not a huge building, but man, it erupts. You know, the small building erupts, and those people get really excited and they love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah.
So without like throwing anybody, well, I'm going to ask you to throw somebody's name out. Who do you see anybody right now or lately that you see them as, man, I see them as going to the big leagues like AEW, WWE, something like that?
I'll be honest, I don't really keep up with wrestling anymore. It hurts too much.
Gotcha.
But I know that I'd love to see Lindsay Snow get a spot somewhere. I love Lindsay Snow. Her and I trained a little bit together. I would love to see her. I think she deserves a shot somewhere. I know she's gotten to do some AEW stuff, but I would love to see her get a shot somewhere that she deserves.
Gotcha.
So I always do this probably halfway through the show. I always throw these questions out. My wife and I run an emergency shelter for foster kids here in the Panhandle of Florida. So we care for 9 kids at a time, and that's what we do. So I do the podcast as a form of self-care because I really believe self-care is important to
absolutely
to go in your life. So I take the hour I take to talk to wrestling stars and Rico for an hour 4 times a week, and it helps my self-care. So of course, when I say I have kids, they always want to know what Mr. Scott's doing, blah blah blah. So I tell them, hey, we're going to talk to a wrestler, a retired wrestler, etc., etc. Well, we want to ask questions, so bear with me. I got like 8 to 10 questions. They come from kids, so
okay.
They're gonna be basics. They're really gonna be basics, and one of them.
Okay, good.
You're having this for dinner, but I don't know if this is your favorite food. So your favorite food?
My favorite food is Olive Garden's chicken and gnocchi soup. Oh, it's to die for. If you've never had it, it is so good. It's creamy chicken and dumplings. Oh, it's delicious.
That's my wife's favorite.
Never
soup.
tried it.
No, you haven't tried
it's
gnocchi.
So
sir?
good.
Never tried it.
No. All right, it's one of my wife's favorite soups too. Does pineapple belong on that pizza that your dad brought in?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay.
No.
Favorite TV show?
Right now it's Sopranos.
Okay.
I'm finishing up the Sopranos for the second time now.
All right. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie would be, it's not a very well-known movie. It's called Rose Red. It's by Stephen King. It's about this big, giant haunted house.
Yep. My wife loves Stephen King. Yeah, my wife's a big Stephen King fan. Man, we got a lot in common with my wife. You watched that movie?
I just rewatched it.
She just rewatched it.
Nice.
Favorite book to read?
There's a book from when I was in high school. It's called Dante's Inferno. and it's about like the spirit who travels through like the 7 levels of hell, and it's kind of an interesting read.
So, I told you my wife is a Disney freak like you are, and she collects Funko Pops, and she's a sci-fi-ish. So she just handed me this. She wanted me to show you her Stephen King Funko Pop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Do you have pets? Talk to us about your pets.
Okay. We have what we call the zoo.
Okay.
So we've got 3 cats, 2 calicos. One's Bailey. One is Bella, or Kitty Kitty, as Frank liked to call her. And then the other one is Cloud, because he's fat like a cloud.
Okay.
And I have 4 dogs. The Dachshund Corgi mix is named Princess Zelda, like the video game.
Okay.
Zachary is our Black Lab Border Collie. And then we have Prince Thor, who was originally supposed to be a road dog. He's a little tan chihuahua. And then Roscoe Boy, who was Frankie's absolute favorite. And just, they were 2 peas in a pod. And he's a little black chihuahua. He and Frank and those 2 chihuahuas, I swear.
Okay. What's your hobby?
Hobby is scrapbooking and thrifting. I like thrifting and yard sailing. So I have an eBay store. I have my own Macquarie store. So I like to go thrift shopping and yard sailing.
Okay, that sounds fun. Do you have a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Huh. Mount Rushmore wrestlers. Let me think on that.
That is always a very good question.
Yes, it is. Macho Man for sure. Dusty Rhodes. I have to go with Andre because I was a big Andre person when I was younger. And Hulk Hogan, because what's more iconic than Hulk Hogan coming to center stage and just ripping his shirt off before a match,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My brother would say, Hogan must pose. And he did.
Yeah.
Favorite vacation place?
We took our honeymoon to Aruba. It was beautiful.
Whoa, always wanted to go there.
Oh, so gorgeous. We did a excuse me, a bus tour around the island, and we did some snorkeling stuff. Oh, it was beautiful.
We're going to the Bahamas in 2 weeks. So I'm excited.
Nice. We've been there a couple times. That was our favorite thing to do, was cruising. We love to get on a cruise ship.
Okay.
Never been on one.
No. Oh, it's the way to go, man. It's so just drama-free, stress-free. You don't have your phones. You can't get in contact with the outside world. No one can bother you. Oh, it's great.
So something cool about Rico and I, his daughter is married to my son. And so we have the same grandbabies together. So it's kind of cool that we
nice.
2 nights a week together. We talk wrestling, whether it's interviews, whether it's WWE or independent stuff or whatever it is. So that's cool.
Nice.
That's the connection we have. So
yes.
So Rico.
So I gotta ask, how come everybody always says no to pineapple on pizza? Well, come on.
It just doesn't go with pizza. You have like the sweet and like then the salty. It just doesn't go. I like pepperoni and sausage on mine, so that just makes it a weird combination.
Well, yeah, if you get the ham and the pineapple, I mean, it's just.
See, I've never had ham and pineapple on a pizza. I've had pineapple, like just pineapple on a pizza, and it just did not go well with the cheese and the sauce flavor. It was just weird.
I've only eaten it with ham and pineapple, but it's pretty good. That's because we've asked so many people, or he has, and everybody says no. It's like,
that's like the big like thing is pineapple on pizza. That used to be a big joke with like Aja when her and I, when like we'd be on the road. It would be a big joke because she loved pineapple pizza. She would like fight to the death for pineapple pizza, and she would sell your soul on it. She would like. You would think that they paid her. They invested in her to promote pineapple pizza.
Nice. Nunez says, favorite part of your matches you have done. What's the favorite part of your matches?
My storyline with my trainer, Rain, was probably my favorite that I've ever done because we both were so invested in it. And we had such chemistry. it made it so much more fun to just go out, and we could go out and beat the tar out of each other, and we knew that like it was safe, you know.
Right.
So do you have any road stories or anything that just you'd say probably is your favorite story?
I don't think I have anything particular, like one favorite story. Frank and I used to just love to go to like little places on the road. So we love to support small businesses. So if we could stay at like a little Airbnb, or like a little bed and breakfast, or go to like a mom and pop restaurant, we love doing those kind of things. And we loved seeing like the cheesy road trip things, like, the world's largest ball of yarn. We always wanted to go see that. We always wanted to go take Route 66 and drive it across country and see all those lame little things. I remember one time we were on the road with dream killer Eric Wayne and his then girlfriend on the way to Alabama, and we blew a tire, and you could just hear Frank, son of a bitch, goddamn, blah, blah, blah. And he just would get so just animated and upset and just, Jesus Christ, this is the worst thing that could be. I'm like, Frank, relax, it's okay, we're okay, we can just pop another tire on. He's like, what are you popping another tire on? We can't just pop another tire on. That's not how that works.
That's awesome.
He was so animated, and so he would just get so upset over like small things, and it just used to crack me out because I'm like, you're wasting so much energy right now getting so upset, and I'm just laughing away. I would just laugh and watch him just lose his mind over something small, and he just would be like, this is the end of the world, and I'm like, it's not the end of the world, Frank, you're okay, I promise.
Was he outside kicking the tire?
Yes, he actually did go outside and kick the tire. And I remember one time we were in Nashville, and we were in a bad part of Nashville, and he went over, he was driving like a maniac, and I told him he was driving like a maniac, and he didn't listen to me because, why would he? So he goes over this giant pothole, pops the tire, just explodes the tire. And we're in this like hood gas station. No way. We don't have any of our weapons on us. It's just us. We have no idea where we are. And I just remember him trying to take off the tire, and it just was the funniest thing. I'd never seen it before in my life. And he just could not figure out how to get the damn tire off. And I was like, why are we even just call AAA? We'll just it's midnight. They're not going to come out right now. Like, Frank, they're going to come out at AAA. I promise they'll come out. And he was just out there with that axle trying to jack the car up, and at the same time, and trying to take off the wheel locks. Oh, he was a mess.
That's awesome.
Well, my wife and I, when we travel, it's a known rule for Miss Edie and I to not eat at chain restaurants.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. We're not going to eat at chain restaurants. And
yeah, that was basically what we had. That was our little rule. Was we always had to find a mom and pop place.
Yeah. That's what me and my wife, we say. The mom and pop places, they're just the hole in the wall places. They have better food. It's for some reason, it's always just better. I don't know.
It is.
They care about it more,
and the service is always better because it's a little mom and pop place, and they appreciate your business. You're not just another number to them. And, so their cooking was always so much better, and their prices a lot of times were better too.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I traveled to Mississippi with our boys when they were like 10 and 9. I think we were going to New Orleans. And on the way back, we came into Mississippi, and we stopped at this mom and pop's restaurant. And the lady comes over, sweet lady. She goes, "What would you like to drink?" I said, "Unsweet iced tea." And she looked at me like I was a crazy person. And I'm like, and she looked. She goes, "I'll be right back." And I'm like, "Where are they going?" Right? So you watch the lady, and there's about 4 waitresses over on the other side of the restaurant, and they're all huddled around. And I'm like, what are they doing? She comes back and she goes, I got a question. I said, what's that? She goes, how do you make unsweet iced tea?
I knew it was coming. That was what it was going to be, that they were surprised about the unsweet iced tea.
I'm not making that up. And I'm like, they just didn't ask that question, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were dumbfounded. They didn't know how to do it. I'm like,
yeah, you were in the South?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My wife said, just bring me a coffee cup with a tea bag and a big ice. That's ice. That's all, right?
Oh
So-
my gosh.
As a retired woman of wrestling and one that's been through the business as a wrestler, as a manager, et cetera, with everything that happened in your life, could you give any good advice to any upcoming female wrestlers that want to break into the business? What would you tell them?
Stay away from the men. They're so not everybody is about helping you in your career. Not everything. Frank and I were very lucky to have each other, but that's not the case in the business. Is you're not going to find the love of your life in your wrestling guys, and people in general have ulterior motives, so I would say stick with the women and find yourself a female trainer that has been around the business for a while and that can help you, and that was around the business before the women's revolution and during the women's revolution, and like it is now, because that's where I got really lucky. Was I got to learn the ins and the outs and the do's and the don'ts from other women, and that saved me a lot of time getting scammed, a lot of heartbreak. It sounds silly, but you're not supposed to fraternize with coworkers. Same thing with wrestling. You're not supposed to fraternize with coworkers. So I know that sounds like such a silly thing to say, like such silly advice, but for women, it's dog eat dog. And there are, unfortunately, a lot of shady characters in wrestling. The Me Too movement proved that on its own. So that was where I think a lot of my, Frank and I just happened to be wrestlers when we met. Like, he wasn't my first and my trainer, if that makes sense. So we were kind of a freak thing that we had no business finding each other. I don't know how we managed to find each other and how we managed to be so perfect together. But I would say just, find yourself another woman that was around before the women's revolution, and not just somebody that just watched some wrestling and then decided they wanted to be a trainer. Find yourself a reputable trainer. And there are very reputable men trainers. I mean, I'm not saying that at all, but for women, it helps to have women who have been through things in the business to help you with your side, because men don't have to deal with some of the same things that women have to deal with coming up. And it's much easier and much better to learn from another woman who's been through those things and who's met those kind of people, to guide you, if any of that makes sense. I know that sounds kind of crazy. But that's a huge thing that I think helped me, was that I had Bonnie as a trainer, and she had been around before the women's evolution. So she was around when, the women's match was a popcorn match, and it wasn't a match that anyone wanted to go see. So she was around for those kind of matches and that kind of environment. So I think that really helped me a lot. But the most important thing is find yourself a reputable trainer. Someone, do your research on your trainers, if it's male, female, regardless, just do your research on your trainer and make sure you're going to the right place and you're putting your money and you're giving them your body and your time. Make sure you're doing it safely.
Yeah. And there's, I was hearing, I don't know if it's rumors or how true it is, but, there's been more of a push in the women's wrestling and especially in WWE. So now they're talking about bringing out the Intercontinental title for women and possibly United States title for women.
Really?
Yep. Because
wow, that would be amazing.
And they're doing so awesome.
Yeah, WWE is doing right by the women right now. And I'm really impressed. I'm really glad that they are, because there's some incredible women on that roster that deserve a chance and deserve to be seen.
Mm-hmm. So with the wrestling, how important would you say having that personality in wrestling is?
It's very, very important. It's everything, because I've had some bad matches, but my character and my gimmick around it saved me during those bad matches and during that time. So there would be times where I would completely forget something and just blank. And but I could stop for a minute and play my character for a minute and just sell or just give, my baby face time while I got time to recuperate, just playing my character. So the character thing is huge, and it's important to, find what you know or what you like and just turn it up. That's how Frank always used to say it. That's how he was. It was him in real life. He just multiplied the volume. He just turned the volume up on it. He was the same kind of person inside and outside the ring. I mean, he wasn't the total jerk off that he was sometimes in the ring, but he, had that New Yorker presence and that feel about him. So he just took that and turned up the volume, and that you can have an empty arena explode if you've got the right character and the right personality to be in the ring, and if you can feed off the crowd and you can get your crowd involved and interested in what you're doing and invested in what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I will say this, Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast has had the opportunity to interview several guys that, including Francisco himself, that took their life and amped it up.
Yeah.
A lot. And I can name the names, and I'm sure you would probably heard of them, because I think some of them came through with Francisco. So Portela, Rich.
Yeah.
That's my boy right there, man. I like Rich.
Argus Artois.
Yeah.
To the 9. He's from 0 to 100 million. Yeah, this guy's way out there,
Yeah. He's the exact same in ring as he is out, but he's higher up in the ring. If that makes sense. He's like, he doesn't change who he is, but he amps it up, and it makes it just, he's great.
Absolutely. And then, and it's just so cool to see those type of guys, and I watch a indie wrestling show down here in Panama City, and I know, your husband knew Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
He's the same. He's the baby face, but he is that. And that's what he lives, So what you said is, when I say that is because what you said is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's to me as a fan is what I want to see. I want to see an MJF, a guy that lives his life the way he is in the ring. And I'll tell you, Francisco, I guarantee you he does that. I guarantee you he did what you said, because the first time I met him was in October when I had him on the podcast. And I've never seen him before except for on video on YouTube or whatever. This guy is in there. He has his hat on. And he's all this, white shirt. He's like this big tough guy from the Bronx or whatever. Look, that's why we looked on the thing.
Yeah.
And I stumbled over his name. I think I said Francisco Cayazzo, and he goes, "Excuse me," and I said Francisco blah blah. He goes, "Excuse me." I said, "I don't know." He goes, "It's Chiazzo. Now you say it." I'm like, "Oh shit, I messed up." So he could see the fear on my face. He goes, "Okay, dude, it's okay." He goes, "You're good." And he went out of character and stuff like that. And that was one amazing time. I know what you mean by how amazing the guy is. When he passed, Facebook was flooded with memories, and you could just tell the love people had for you and the love people had for your husband.
Yeah.
I have to say he's one of my favorites that I had on the thing, because he was genuine, and after the podcast, he sat 30 minutes in his car talking about stuff. And he says to me, and I will never forget, he goes, "Don't ever give up what you're doing." He goes, "Because you guys are rocking it. You guys do it well." And blah, blah, blah. We talked about WWN, FIP. He hooked me up with the owner or the people at WWN. He said, "Hey, I'll send you a couple autographs." He goes, "But I want you to watch my movie. Give me feedback." And a couple days later, he asked me about feedback. And we had some issues going on with my wife and I and our kids. And I didn't get a chance to watch it then. I watched it later on, and that movie's great. And and I will say this: I want to thank you, because you found this, that Frank, that he was going to send us, when you found it, and I want to thank you. He signed this for me.
Yeah, I remember grabbing that.
And then he signed this one.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you continuing sharing his legacy, his story, and your story. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted you. I was hoping you'd say yes to come on the show. Because
Yeah, well, I've had a blast. Thank you for having me, and I'm always down to talk about Frank. Whatever's going to keep his memory out there, you know.
Absolutely, and I thank you again, Rico. Do you have anything before we close?
Oh no, I just want to say thank you so much for coming aboard on the show, and it's been
absolutely.
Yeah, so. Stormie, I appreciate you coming on the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. This is Stormie Lee. She shared her wrestling career with us. She shared her love for Franco Chiazza with us and the memories he has. We're going to continue living out the memories. I love your Facebook. You're always talking about the things you guys did, and that's so cool. I'm glad to meet you. I'm going to play some music. Don't go nowhere. I'd love to chat for 2 seconds with you after my music closes, okay?
Okay.
So here's Pop Wrestling Podcast. I thank you. Thank you, Nunez. Thank you, Dr. Red Tyler. All you guys that came on the show.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Hit the follow, subscribe button. We love you. You guys make what we do easy. So I appreciate it. Huge Pops out.
All my dogs, make some noise up in this house.
Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your head is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your head is knocked out.
Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with the devil, because when he's dealing with you, you cannot get on this level.
Fight with Adrian Whisper, it's like a fight with a king. It's like a fight with an army, they got the tanks and everything.
He's leaving bruises and stitches, possibly leaving you crippled, cause when he sets up the table and sends you straight through the middle.
Six sadistic free, beat that ass with a light bulb. Leave a piece of glass embedded in the back of your skull. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out.